the hidden tax that makes everything you buy a scam. The total blinks on the checkout screen, $86.14. Same card as last month, but the cereal feels lighter, the ice cream tub looks the same and isn't, and a regulatory operations fee just appeared. One line near the bottom reads, assorted promo ADJ minus $1.00, which will matter later. The cashier shrugs. Prices went up. But this isn't just inflation. It's a maze of market power, quiet contract terms, and fees you never see. We're going to follow the money from the shelf to the shareholder. Because every hidden charge is a quiet tax on your time, your wages, and your choices. To understand it, we go back to the aisle. The aisle illusion, why prices feel rigged. A shopper grabs their usual cereal. Same brand, same box colors, same spot at eye level. It feels a little lighter, but the price tag shows the same $4.99. They toss it in the cart and keep moving. At home, the bowl looks smaller. The box didn't change price, the inside did. Shrinkflation is the move. Less product, same sticker, no headline. It works because our brains anchor to the picture and the price, not the ounces tucked in a tiny corner. Then there's skimpflation. The chips use more air, cheaper oil, and fewer whole pieces. The coffee grounds a bit coarser, the brew thinner. The new formula detergent doesn't quite lift last night's curry stain. Quality slides a step, and the brand calls it improved or cleaner ingredients. You're still paying for the logo, but the experience costs more in rewashes, repeat purchases, and disappointment. That's a tax paid in time. Feeflation shows up when the price looks flat, but costs migrate to add-ons. The shelf says $8.99, the app says $9.49, and at checkout there's a bag fee, a compliance fee, or a service adjustment. Each charge is small enough to ignore, but together they move the total. It's water rising around your ankles, noticeable only when you try to step out. Menu engineering pushes you gently toward higher margin picks. The value size is highlighted, a decoy large sits beside it, and the real per ounce deal hides on the bottom shelf. A bakery loaf gets a freshly baked badge when it arrived par-baked from a factory and was warmed on-site. Limited time nudges urgency. Family size sounds like more, even when it's less than last year's family size. Meanwhile, drip pricing and algorithmic A/B tests probe what you'll tolerate. On the store app, one user sees $3.49, another $3.69, both labeled member price. The test runs silently for a week, then settles on the highest conversion with the least churn. You think you found a deal, the system found your ceiling. The sticker feels stable. The out-the-door price isn't. Why doesn't unit pricing rescue us? In theory, that little per ounce figure should cut through the noise. In practice, unit standards vary by category. Paper towels list per sheet, but sheets aren't all the same size. Yogurt lists per ounce, bulk tubs list per pound, and the fonts shrink just enough to slow you down. Some stores place unit price labels directly below the wrong product, a few inches offset. It's not illegal to be confusing, it's just effective. Labels lean on optical tricks. Packages keep their footprint and shape while the bottom domes upward inside, reducing fill. The label says new ergonomic design. Bottles add air space to protect freshness. Jars taper at the base. The same great taste, seal acts like a placebo, easing doubt about what changed. You're meant to remember the brand, not the grams. The grams are the story. Our brains spot patterns, so companies work hard to keep the visual pattern steady while the contents shift. That's why the cereal glow stays the same, colors, cartoon font. Any redesign is slow and gentle. If they must cut ounces, they sometimes add a bonus item, collectible tokens, recipe booklets, so the missing cereal feels less missing. Sticker price versus out-the-door price relies on a gap in attention. You process the $4.99 and expect the total to be close. But the total includes taxes, bag charges, deposit fees, rounding from offers that only apply with a clipped digital coupon, and a loyalty program that hands you points instead of money. In your head, last month's cart cost $70. Today it's $86.14. The extra $16 hides in the fine print, in the portion sizes, and in the moments you spent scrolling for a digital coupon that never loaded. Time is a currency, and the house bills in minutes. Here's a micro-story. A dad runs in for a quick milk and bread stop before school drop-off. He grabs the value loaf, same slot. The slices are narrower. The kids ask for a second sandwich tomorrow. The weekly grocery total creeps up because lunch now needs more to feel the same. No one changed the sticker price. The maker changed the math. Another microstory. A college student checks out on the app to save time. The store shows a pickup service fee that's waived if they spend $35 plus a regulatory fee. The cart hits $35 with a buy two, get one on energy drinks they didn't plan to buy. The free pickup costs them $5 more than the in-store price and another $6 in stuff they didn't need. The time saved was 12 minutes. The cost was an extra hour at work this week. Algorithmic tests don't announce themselves, but you feel them when a member exclusive disappears after 2 purchases. The system learned you'll pay full price for that oat milk when the discount vanishes. Some promotions are training wheels, temporary price reductions that teach you the normal price is higher than it really needs to be. Once behavior locks in, the temporary becomes the baseline and the label rotates to a different item. You carry old anchors in your head. They carry new margins on their books. There's another layer. You don't always see the same store. 2 locations under the same banner run different prices and different promotions, calibrated to neighborhood income and competition. Students get cheaper ramen near campus. Commuters pay more for grab-and-go salads downtown. Loyalty apps filter offers based on past purchases, which sounds helpful, but also means your deal set can hide cheaper alternatives you never encounter. Trust marks play defense. A non-GMO badge appears on products that never contain GMOs. No antibiotics ever on vegetables. Cage-free on items where cages were never relevant. The marks soothe and distract. Each signal adds permission to pay, even when it doesn't change cost or quality. And then the reverse happens. A too-good unit price steers you to a bulk pack that looks like a win. But if the formula quietly shifted, you need more per use. The detergent that claimed 30 loads last year claims 25 powerful cleans, this year with the same bottle size and a wider spout that pours heavier. The unit math on the shelf isn't the use math at home. If it all feels like the game is rigged, that feeling is the product. The aisle is choreographed to compress your time and expand your spend, while keeping each single decision defensible. No one lie, just 1,000 nudges. The receipt captures the sum of those nudges, minus the context that created them. So how did the aisle get this way? The store doesn't set every rule. What's on the shelf depends on who controls the shelf. Distributors are the gatekeepers between brands and your cart. They decide who gets space, how much, and at what hidden cost. And the way they charge brands ripples into every choice you're making without realizing it. To see the real levers, we have to step behind the aisle and meet the people who bill for the space itself. Gatekeepers, how distributors control the shelf. Out on the floor, it looks like the store chose what to stock. Behind it, distributors run the toll booths. A new salsa wants onto a regional chain's shelves. Before a single jar moves, there's a slotting fee, pay to enter. Then a pay to stay, pay to remain. Add promotional allowances for end caps, eye-level placement, and weekly ad features. The salsa founder brings samples. The distributor brings invoices. Every dollar they pay to secure space needs to come back through the sticker you see, or through the quiet tricks you don't. Category captains make it even tighter. The biggest brand in a category helps the retailer optimize the planogram, the map of what sits where. They provide data, best practices, and shelf schematics. Helpful, except the map nudges you toward their flavors, their sizes, and their brand family. A competing product still appears, but its only slot is the awkward bottom left where carts bump it and hands miss it. The captain doesn't ban rivals, they bury them. A microstory, a small pasta sauce maker finally wins a meeting. The distributor smiles and offers free fill. The first case per store at no charge to the retailer. The Indie maxes a credit card to cover it. For 2 weeks, jars appear on an end cap with a new tag. Sales pop. Then wholesale pricing inches up. The distributor says fuel surcharges and labor. The free fill becomes a debt the sauce pays back for months. When the promo ends, the jars move to mid-shelf next to a private label copy. Sales drop. The distributor suggests a temporary price reduction, funded by the brand. The brand funds it. Margins thin. The shelf remains. Promotional allowances look like marketing, but function like rent. Want a coupon in the circular? Pay. Want the tag that says Manager's Special? Pay. Miss a deadline for artwork or barcode updates? That's a compliance deduction. Shipped to the wrong crossdock? Chargeback. Too much shrink in the region? The distributor passes along a spoilage fee. These aren't surprises. They're line items in vendor agreements. But in the moment, to keep the shelf, a founder signs and plans to make it up on volume that rarely arrives. Consolidation amplifies it all. When there are 3 major broadline distributors in a region and 2 merge, the new entity sets terms with the confidence of gravity. They control the refrigerated trucks, the dry goods warehouses, the nightly routes that thread the suburbs. They can require minimum order quantities that force small brands to produce bigger batches than they can finance, then charge storage when those pallets sit. A missed delivery window pushes the next slot by a week. The brand loses freshness, the store loses patience, and the distributor offers a solution for a fee. Meanwhile, category captains leverage data the indie can't see. They know which flavors spike on weekends, which sizes move in high-income zip codes, and exactly how 2 inches of shelf shift can swing sales by 5%. They share just enough with the retailer to validate the planogram that favors them. A competing brand asks for the same data. The gatekeeper says it's proprietary. The small team guesses in the dark. Pay to stay doesn't always show up as a check. Sometimes it's a commitment to fund trade spend, those BOGO weeks and club-sized discounts that look like generosity. In reality, the brand pays the distributor, who pays the retailer to run the promotion. During the promo, the brand sees velocity surge and thinks they're breaking through. After, the base price creeps upward to recoup the spend. The loyal shoppers who discovered it at $3.99 face $5.49 and hesitate. Without the promo engine, the product can't sustain the slot. The distributor suggests a second promo cycle. The treadmill speeds up. There's a quiet shell game with free fill too. A distributor extends it to help the retailer take a risk. But the next purchase order includes higher wholesale, framed as standardizing rates across the network. The retailer's unit margin stays flat. The brand eats the delta. On paper, the promotion looked like investment. In practice, it pulled forward sales at a cost that lingers. A startup beverage learns the hard way. They win a regional chain with a must-carry list dictated by the distributor. Pallets of complementary items to round out the truck. The beverage can't absorb it. They finance inventory they never planned to sell, stash it in a third-party warehouse, and start paying variable storage fees that spike around holidays. The distributor gets fuller trucks. The brand gets thinner cash flow. When invoices to the co-packer come due, the brand asks for extended terms. The co-packer adds a late fee. Every actor is rational. The math crushes the smallest node. New brands are priced out long before you ever meet them. A founder runs the numbers. Slotting fees for 2 chains, for promos per year, mandatory free fills, chargeback reserves, and a marketing calendar to stay visible. The required capital dwarfs their seed round. Investors advise a DTC pivot or a focus on food service, where margins are also tricky, but the shelf rent is less explicit. You never stand in front of their jar because it never made it off the spreadsheet. Even for established players, the gatekeeping shapes what you pay. Distributors push case pack changes that reduce per case weight, but shrink per unit ounces. It makes trucks more efficient and lowers handling costs. It also nudges shrinkflation without the brand taking public heat. A cereal case still says 12 units. Each unit quietly drops from 13.5 to 12.8 ounces. The distributor touts reduced damages. You pay the same for a lighter breakfast. When retailers want national resets, distributors coordinate category reviews. Brands bring decks, captains bring market share graphs. The review closes with decisions that look data-driven. But the data set reflects the world where the captain already dominates, the allowances already flow, and the network already prefers predictable trucks over risky newcomers. The shelf looks stable because risk was priced out. A human moment lands it. A grocery buyer likes a small hot sauce that locals rave about. The distributor flags it. Limited distribution, inconsistent supply, no proven promo budget. If it goes out of stock, the whole set looks messy. The buyer sighs and follows the planogram. The sauce stays in a dozen neighborhood stores, never scaled. You never try it, and the big brand's extra bold variant gets the eye-level slot instead. This gatekeeping isn't personal. It's structural. Trucks, warehouses, and planograms are expensive. Whoever controls them writes rules that protect their assets. Those rules cascade as fees, allowances, and packaging decisions that roll downhill into your cart. While all this happens behind the loading dock, something even bigger pulls on the market from the front of the store. Distributors orbit retailers with massive gravity. Chains that can demand lower wholesale, better promo funding, and custom packs. If the distributor is the toll booth, the retailer is the turnpike. Scale sets the rules, and the next move shifts more risk off the store and onto everyone upstream, and eventually onto you. The retail squeeze, when scale sets. The rules. Walk into a big box chain, and the floor looks calm. Behind the scenes, vendor agreements read like a risk transfer machine. A producer ships a pallet to a retailer's distribution center. If the barcode is misaligned by a millimeter, that's a compliance deduction. If the pallet height exceeds spec, another deduction. Miss a delivery window, chargeback. If items arrive fine but later get damaged in store, shrink fees pass upstream as shared responsibility. Spoilage. The retailer claims an allowance from the vendor. Each clause is normal on its own. Together, they move costs off the store's P&L and onto the suppliers, and then into your price. Here's how it lands. A small bakery signs with a national grocer. The contract includes on-time in full targets, labeling standards, and packaging requirements. In month 1, the bakery misses a single ASN transmission, an electronic notice, by an hour. Chargeback. Month 2, a store reports high shrink after a refrigeration failure. The grocer applies a spoilage deduction to the bakery. To protect margins, the bakery reformulates to extend shelf life and redesigns packaging to withstand rougher handling. The bread still looks artisanal. It's tougher, drier, and a day older by the time you buy it. Retailers frame private label as choice, but it's also leverage. A brand presents an innovative granola. A few months later, a near clone appears under the house label. Similar ingredients, simpler packaging, 15% cheaper. The pitch to the brand is quiet. Sharpen your pencil on price, fund more promos, accept new case packs, or lose space. The house label doesn't need to pay slotting or hefty promo allowances the same way. Its economics are baked into the chain. You see a cheaper alternative. The brand sees its own R&D used to negotiate against it. The negotiating room runs on data the retailer owns. Loyalty apps track baskets, repeat rates, and price sensitivity by household. That data sets personalized offers that feel like help but serve a strategy. Pull you into the chain's ecosystem, train you to chase the app, and segment prices. Two neighbors scan the same aisle. Only one sees a digital coupon for the same yogurt. If you don't tap Clip, the offer doesn't apply at checkout. A deal exists and doesn't, until you spend time to make it real. The sticker isn't the price. The price is how much friction you'll tolerate. Meanwhile, the rhetoric around theft, shrink, meets self-checkout. Self-checkout lets chains cut labor hours and collect data on skin patterns. When shrink rises, retailers add loss prevention fees to vendor agreements or tighten package designs to be more scannable. Those changes increase upstream costs. A razor now ships in a plasticky fortress that's hard to open and costlier to make. You pay more, spend an extra minute wrestling packaging, and still scan it yourself. The loop justifies itself. Labor costs fall, shrink claims rise, suppliers pay more, and the store holds everyday low price by moving the bill elsewhere. Everyday low price works like a brand promise. Prices on the shelf feel steady. Upstream, fees and terms creep. A cereal's wholesale cost is up because the maker is funding end cap displays, data sharing programs, and mandated seasonal packaging. The chain holds the shelf price for optics and spreads increases across other items, or it trims ounces quietly with the manufacturer. A family-sized box looks unchanged. The margin gap is patched with a regulatory compliance fee, paid by the vendor, and a slightly lighter pour for you. Retailers set rules at scale that become standards. A major chain demands RFID tags on cases to improve tracking. Suppliers invest in new equipment, software, and training. Another chain follows. The industry tips. The tech improves inventory accuracy, which is good. The cost of adoption lands first with suppliers who can least absorb it, who then widen the gap between big and small. What starts as a logistics upgrade becomes a structural tax on competition. A micro-story. A regional pickle brand lands 400 stores. The first purchase order is a win. Then come the setup fees, EDI onboarding, data pool subscriptions, mandatory audit services. None of them are extraordinary alone. Together, They turn the first year's margin into a bet on year 2 volume. When a planogram reset drops half the SKUs after 6 months, the pickle team's recovery plan is to accept a private label co-pack contract for the retailer, trading margin for throughput. You still buy their pickles, you just don't see their logo anymore. Personalized pricing sounds tailored. It's also invisible inflation. A chain tests higher prices on shoppers with high loyalty scores because churn risk is lower. The test runs for a subset of stores midweek on items with weak competition nearby. The average price stays flat on paper. Certain baskets get heavier quietly. If you mostly shop one chain and you've never responded to coupons, the algorithm infers you value convenience over savings. Your cart becomes the subsidy for the chain's low price leader ads. Retailers also push packaging tweaks that align with backroom efficiencies. They ask for shelf-ready packaging, narrower cases, and perforated fronts. Stocking gets faster. Warehouse handling improves. The supplier redesigns at their expense. It's good retailing, and it's a cost migration. When cases change, unit counts and fill weights often change too. The shelf edge still says 10 for $10. The bundle value feels familiar, the contents aren't. Then there's the ominous bucket called compliance. Wrong font on a nutrition panel? Deduction. Missing country of origin code on a master case? Deduction. Pallet wrap not to spec? Deduction. Suppliers try to game-proof their operations. More QC, more headcount, more scanners, more software. Their break-even price rises. The retailer keeps consumer-facing prices steady by squeezing upstream and expanding private label. The gap between what it costs to make food and what you think food costs widens. Even the warm parts of retailing, community support, local spotlights, carry rules. A chain runs local month and features small producers. Participation requires temporary price cuts funded by the vendor, guaranteed inventory, and merch kits. The month ends. Sales flatten. The producers who can't keep funding showcases lose end caps and drift back to a single facing on the bottom shelf. The story felt good. The structure didn't change. Meanwhile, omnichannel becomes a tax category. Buy online, pickup in store sounds efficient, but the fulfillment labor and staging space are real. Chains charge vendors for digital merchandising and content syndication, then push shoppers toward subscription delivery passes to lock in behavior. To keep the appearance of a low shelf price, chains add small fees elsewhere, bag fees, order fees, fuel surcharges, while telling vendors to fund free delivery promotions. You pay a little more each touchpoint, vendors pay a lot more across the system, and the headline price stays photogenic. All of this rolls downhill into your perception. You believe a store is cheaper because the most visible items stay low, while secondary items climb and the app sprinkles selective relief. The math that protects the brand promise transfers risk to suppliers who then protect themselves with smaller packs, longer shelf lives, and stiffer packaging. You trade freshness for predictability, choice for standardization, and time for the privilege of chasing the price you thought you saw. Retail power isn't about malice. It's incentives at scale. When a chain can move 1 million units with one decision, its first job is to keep its promise to shoppers. The second job is to keep investors happy. It uses the tools at hand: compliance terms, private label leverage, data-driven pricing, and labor-light checkout. The costs don't vanish. They migrate. And even these giants still answer to someone else: the manufacturers who set recipes, pack sizes, and innovations that make the squeeze feel normal. Recipe of a price, manufacturers, and the quiet markups. Manufacturers live between the promises retailers make and the reality of their own cost curves. Their lever is the recipe of a price: inputs, packaging, trade spend, and timing. When wheat, cocoa, or dairy spike, they move quickly. When those commodities fall, the sticker lags. That delay isn't a glitch. It's part of the margin plan. They hedge inputs on futures markets, so hikes hit immediately when contracts roll, and reductions filter through slowly under the banner of stability. You don't see the hedge ledger. You see a stable-looking box with a slightly smaller fill. Pack size is the quietest markup. Instead of taking price on the shelf, they take ounces from the pack. A 16-ounce bag becomes 14.5. The tub keeps the same circumference, but rises with a false bottom. The case count stays at 12, but each unit shrinks. A retailer keeps its everyday low price, The manufacturer preserves margin, and your per unit cost rises without a headline. If they must adjust price, they pair it with a cosmetic change. New lid, brighter dye-free label. So your brain associates update with value, not loss. Quality shifts hide in new formula claims. A soup reduces protein by swapping a portion of chicken for starch, then adds heartier texture to the label. A yogurt cuts milk fat and leans on gums, then touts less sugar in a bigger font. A soap concentrates nominally, but the recommended dose rises with a wider spout, and the viscosity makes you pour heavier. You feel like you're buying better. You use more to get yesterday's result. The sticker is steady. The usage cost climbs. Trade spend is the second ledger that shapes your price. Manufacturers fund coupons, BOGOs, temporary price reductions, and end cap features. Those aren't gifts. They're budgeted percentages of revenue called trade spend. They lift velocity on schedule, train you to see value at higher nominal prices, and raise the reference point. After a quarter with deep promotions, the regular price is what you remember, the crossed-out number that never needed to be that high. When promotions roll off, fewer switchers return to the base. The brand reports price realization improvements. You feel like deals got stingier. There's choreography to how these levers stack. Step 1. Increase list price modestly while launching a new look, same great taste campaign. Step 2. Announce a temporary reduction through the retailer funded by trade spend. Step 3. Reduce pack size during a packaging refresh. Step 4. Highlight a value size that restores some ounces at a premium per unit. Each move is defensible. The sequence creates a new baseline without an obvious shock. Input volatility gives cover. Palm oil spikes. Raise confection prices 6 months before existing stocks run out by citing forward contracts. Palm oil falls. Hold price, citing supplier instability and freight. Freight tightens during peak season. Add a logistics surcharge. To wholesale that retailers don't always pass through line item. It seeps into the mix. When the freight market loosens, the surcharge becomes standard. You don't see the rollback because it doesn't happen cleanly. You see a new seasonal flavor that justifies the premium tier. Manufacturers also engineer cases around retailer constraints. A lighter case reduces back strain, wins compliance points, and lowers damages. To achieve that, they cut unit fill weights and alter geometry so fewer grams look like the same footprint. The change meets retailer goals and flows into your pantry. That cereal box that used to settle with a satisfying density now rustles. You're buying the same gesture, pour, crunch, but less of it. Consolidation quietly sets expectations. In many center store categories, a handful of CPG firms control the lanes. They don't need to collude to align. They attend the same investor conferences, hear the same analyst questions about revenue growth management, and face the same pressure to deliver predictable earnings. Revenue growth management is a toolkit: pack architecture, channel mix, promo intensity, and price pack architecture, offering more SKUs at different sizes to steer you into higher unit economics. You think you're choosing. You're being segmented. Channel strategy matters. A brand might keep a higher price on delivery apps, absorbing platform fees by upcharging the menu while holding shelf prices flat to satisfy retail partners. That trains you to see in-store as cheaper and the app as premium convenience. It also allows manufacturers to claim they didn't raise prices in the channel, even as average realized price per ounce rises across all channels. Your budget crosses channels, their reports segment them. Manufacturers lean on innovation cycles to reset price ladders. A familiar snack launches a spicy variant with a slick campaign and a 12% higher price per ounce. If velocity holds, the legacy SKU quietly climbs to narrow the gap. If the variant stumbles, they discontinue it, but the higher legacy price sticks. Innovation funds price discovery. What you like becomes the new anchor. What you ignore becomes a data point that justified trying. Here's a micro-story from the line. A plant manager gets a directive: reduce cost per case by 3% without changing the UPC. The team tests thinner film on the pouch, tweaks fill tolerances, and raises the allowable moisture content by a sliver, which reduces ingredient needed per unit. QA signs off within spec. The product passes sensory, but it goes stale a day sooner once opened. You buy it Friday for a weekend party. By Sunday night, it's just a bit less crisp. You toss the remainder and replace it next week. The waste is part of the price now. Coupons used to feel like a win. Digital coupons are a data exchange. You volunteer identity and preferences in return for cents off. The manufacturer treats the redemption as a success metric and tailors future offers to your price sensitivity. If you only buy on deal, you get more coupons, but less availability on your favorite flavor at base price. If you buy off deal, you get fewer coupons and more price tests. The discount isn't random. It's a sorting hat. When commodity inputs drop meaningfully and stick, some manufacturers roll out bonus size for a season. A ketchup adds 15% more for the same price in summer. You feel the generosity, buy multiples for cookouts, and cement loyalty. In fall, bonus size disappears, and the regular bottle returns at a higher per unit price than 2 years ago. The memory of the bonus dulls the sting. A few quarters later, the bottle shape refreshes again, now with easier squeeze, a valve that leaves less product inside, and an ounce or two less fill. Fewer messes, fewer ounces. All of this sits under glossy stories about purpose and sustainability. Many are real. Lighter packaging reduces carbon and cost. Concentrates reduce freight. But the savings don't travel directly to you. They stop first at margin repair, then at promotional budgets, then at select retail partnerships. A manufacturer's first audience is the retailer and the investor. The shopper is the market test that validates both. So when you look at a shelf and feel like nothing moved, but everything costs more, you're noticing the craft. Manufacturers tune pack sizes, formulas, and trade spend to defend earnings in a world where retailers demand stability and distributors extract fees. They can't control freight or crops, but they can control how much ends up in your bowl and how slowly relief arrives when the world gets cheaper. And remember that stray line on our opening receipt. Assorted promo ADJ minus $1.00. That wasn't a gift. It was trade spend doing its job, and it has a bill that shows up later in a place you don't expect. The choke points, monopoly power in the middle. Between the factory and the shelf, a few bottlenecks set the tolls. Start with rail. A handful of freight railroads control the main lines that move grain, lumber, chemicals, and packaged goods. When a manufacturer depends on a single carrier for a corridor, take-or-pay contracts and fuel surcharges don't feel optional. Railroads tweak service levels and accessorial fees, storage, car placement, constructive placement, so the list price isn't where the pain sits. If cars arrive late, the shipper still pays. If cars arrive early, dwell fees apply. The product hasn't moved an inch, but the invoice has. Trucking plays the next chord. There are countless small carriers, but line-haul networks rely on dominant brokers and large fleets for national coverage. During tight capacity, carriers add fuel surcharges and congestion fees. When capacity loosens, base rates fall slowly while temporary accessorials linger. Detention, time a trailer sits at a dock, bills by the hour. Lumper fees, paid to third parties to unload, appear as a pass-through. A case of seltzer costs the same to make. By the time it reaches the warehouse, it's carrying a handful of travel stickers you never see. Ports are where the reset became visible. During the pandemic, containers stacked up, and demurrage, fees when boxes sit too long, and detention, fees when equipment isn't returned on time, became a revenue line. Even after the peak, new baselines stuck. Terminal appointment systems reduce chaos, but penalize missed windows. If a trucker can't snag a slot because of traffic, the meter runs anyway. That clock transfers to a shipper's landed cost, which lands in a manufacturer's cost to serve, which lands in your unit price, or your missing ounces. Warehousing scarcity came next. Vacancy rates fell, rates climbed. Contracts added peak season surcharges and dynamic storage pricing tied to cube and velocity. If your goods don't move fast enough, you pay more. If they move too fast and trigger more touches, you pay more. Energy surcharges hit refrigerated space. Labor premiums hit weekend picks. A pallet of yogurt might pass through 2 or 3 sites. Import cross-dock, regional DC, last mile depot, each with its own fee menu. Margins peel off at every door. The choke points aren't all physical. Payment rails take a toll on every swipe, tap, and card-on-file purchase. Interchange fees look small, 1 to 3%, but at scale there are meta tax on sales. Merchants raise sticker prices slightly to cover the blend. Some add cash discounts that appear as credit surcharges by another name. You never see interchange on a receipt. You feel it when an $8 lunch becomes $8.39 before anyone adds a delivery app or a bag fee. And then there's the digital gate that replaced the old end cap, advertising platforms. Two companies control most of the ad market where brands go to find you. If a manufacturer wants to sell direct or to drive you to a retailer, they buy search and social ads. Auction dynamics push bids up, especially for branded keywords. Customer acquisition cost becomes a silent ingredient in the jar. The irony is sharp. Brands fund ads to escape retailer dependency, then pay a new toll keeper with higher margins than the store ever took. Parallel to that sits retail media, ads inside retailer apps and sites. If you shop online, the first 4 results might be sponsored. Manufacturers fund those placements through trade budgets, the same budgets that used to finance coupons. The ad is now a paid shelf. The fees don't show up as ad on your receipt. They show up as pressure to raise list prices and trim ounces to keep the ROI spreadsheet green. Let's drop into a day. A candy maker ships pallets from the Midwest to the West Coast. Rail is cheapest, but service is inconsistent, so they split loads with truckload to hit launches. Rail adds a fuel surcharge. Truckload adds 1-2, plus a West Coast congestion fee. The box hits port-adjacent warehousing where energy surcharges run high. The retailer wants cross-dock to speed launch, which adds a per-case handling fee. To win the digital search bar, the brand buys retail media on the chain's app and search ads on the open web. Payment fees touch every DTC order. When the season ends, unsold candy pays storage or gets discounted with brand-funded promotions. The shelf price held steady. Everything around it rose. Even packaging is pinned to choke points. Resin prices, driven by petrochemical capacity controlled by a small set of producers, ripple through bottles and films. When hurricanes hit the Gulf Coast, resin tightens, converters ration, and lead times extend. A manufacturer pays expedite fees to keep lines running, then opts for thinner film long-term. That film tears more on automated equipment, raising warehouse touches and damages. To compensate, they add an outer carton, more fiber cost, more cube, more freight. A circle closes, and the bill accumulates in pennies you pay. If a brand tries to bypass pieces of this maze, they meet new tolls. Ship direct from factory to store? Now you need EDI compliance, delivery appointments, tailgate service at stores without docks, and proof of delivery scans. Miss one chargeback. Try micro-fulfillment. Ultra-fast hubs carry brutal rent and labor premiums. Use a 3PL aggregator. You inherit their fee structure, including peak surcharges. Each shortcut converts one fee into 3 smaller ones with better optics. There's a human version of this. A small coffee roaster wins a coastal grocer. Their beans ship in containers that must clear the port fast. One delayed appointment triggers demurrage for 3 days. The roaster wires payment to release the box, then pays a premium drayage rate to move it inland. The warehouse is full, so overflow goes to a public facility with a weekend intake surcharge. The grocery chain insists on on-time in full for a promo week. The roaster charters a partial truck at a painful rate to avoid a compliance deduction. The promo lands. You see $1 off. The roaster sees 6 months of profit in fees. Choke points also normalize temporary line items. Fuel surcharges started as a response to oil spikes, but they often become embedded. Terminal congestion fees born in crisis remain after the queue clears, renamed to reflect infrastructure improvement. Payment networks defend fees by pointing to fraud protection and rewards programs, which are real benefits. Those rewards are funded by the merchants who raise your base price to cover them, which means your neighbor who pays cash subsidizes your miles. Meanwhile, every choke point has its own consolidation story. Fewer railroads, fewer ocean alliances, fewer payment networks, fewer ad platforms. Not monopolies in the strict legal sense everywhere, but concentrated enough that opting out means worse service, longer timelines, or lost demand. A brand can switch carriers, they can't switch the number of tracks. All of this is why the price, you see, isn't a simple reflection of costs. It's the outcome of bargaining power at junctions where switching hurts. The middle sets rules that look like logistics and finance, but behave like tolls. Those tolls flow forward into smaller packages, quieter rollbacks, and fees that wear friendly names. And just when you think you can avoid it by staying home and tapping an app, the last mile arrives with its own dictionary of charges, ready to stack on top. Section 6. Delivery fees, service fees, and the app tax. You open a delivery app and tap your usual burrito. In-store, it's $10.49. On the app, The listed menu price is $11.79 before anything else happens. That's the first layer, menu price inflation on platforms. Restaurants mark up inside the app to cover commissions that can run a big slice of the order. You don't see the contract. You see a higher starting point that feels like convenience tax before the fees even line up. Then the stack begins. A service fee appears with no clear service attached. A regulatory fee shows up in cities with delivery rules. Sometimes it's mandated. Sometimes it's a platform's way to relabel costs. Add a small order fee if you didn't hit the minimum. Toss in a fuel fee when gas spikes, which often outlasts the spike. The subtotal grows quietly. You haven't tipped yet. You haven't paid sales tax. The total feels like it turned a corner without you. Here's how it lands for a real kitchen. A neighborhood tie spot signs with a platform to survive slow weeknights. The platform takes a commission on the food total, plus charges for credit card processing. The restaurant faces a choice. Eat the commission, raise the in-app menu price, or add direct delivery with its own drivers. They choose markup. Now, Pad Thai in-store is $12. In-app, it's $13.50. The service fee and regulatory fee together add $2.25. Sales tax and delivery fee add more. Your $12 dinner is climbing toward $20 before the tip. Some of that covers real logistics. Some covers a toll to access the demand the app controls. Dark kitchens build another layer of opacity. These are brand names spun up for delivery only, often sharing space with an existing restaurant or a production facility. A burger brand with a catchy name pops up near you at 11 p.m. It's cooked in a shared kitchen optimized for fast prep and efficient packing, not necessarily for the best fries after 35 minutes in a car. The brand can run promos at will because it's a spreadsheet, not a dining room with regulars. The platform promotes it, takes a commission, and the kitchen pays rent higher than a back room would have cost. The economics squeeze both food quality and pricing, but the app presentation makes it feel like a fresh local find. Algorithmic promotions drive behavior in both directions. You get a banner. Spend $25, save $5. The platform nudges order size up to raise average commission while funding the discount partly out of the restaurant's margin through marketing credits. The kitchen sees a surge in combo orders that hit the threshold. Food cost per ticket rises. Labor stretches. The platform reports improved basket economics. You feel like you saved. The restaurant feels like it sprinted. Drivers sit in the middle of that economics. Tip baiting, where a customer dangles a high tip to speed pickup and lowers it after delivery, arrived with the apps. Platforms tweak designs to reduce it, but variability remains. Driver pay formulas adjust based on distance, batch orders, and time of day incentives. A driver accepts 2 orders from different restaurants to maximize earnings. Your food waits for the second pickup because the app bundled them. You paid a delivery fee for your order. The platform optimized route efficiency for its own margin. Your fries suffer. The driver still swings a risk. If the second customer reduces a tip, the batch's economics wobble. Meanwhile, the apps test your tolerance. One night, the service fee is percentage-based. Another night, it's fixed. A busy area fee appears during rain. The fee names change, the total changes, and your brain can't anchor. What remains steady is the friction to opt out. If you exit to call the restaurant directly, the phone line is busy or the website redirects you back to the platform. Some cities require fee transparency. The labels adjust: marketplace fee, order support, driver benefits. The money flows the same. A micro-story. A line cook at a pizza spot watches the ticket screen light up at 7:30. 6 app orders, 2 in-house. The app pings. Prioritize these, customer waiting. The cook fires pies for the platform queue because late orders result in penalties to the restaurant's rating, which drops their ranking in search the next night. 2 walk-in regulars wait 20 minutes longer than usual. They grumble. The owner apologizes and slides them a discount card. The app orders go out. The driver takes 3 at once. 1 pie rides in a hot bag underneath 2 more. Your pepperoni arrives with cheese shifted to one side. The app asks if you want to tip extra for great service. Subscriptions smooth the edges. A monthly pass offers dollar delivery fees over a threshold. What you actually avoid is the line item labeled delivery fee. The service fee remains. Menu markups remain. Surge fees can still apply. The pass nudges frequency up, so the platform earns commissions more often, and the bundle masks the marginal cost. Your awareness falls as your monthly card statement climbs by a regular amount that feels like Netflix, not a tax for moving tacos. Restaurants try to route around the tolls with order direct links. Some platforms respond by deprioritizing those restaurants in search or by prohibiting lower prices on direct channels in their contracts. When bans are enforced, a burger costs the same whether you call the shop or tap the app, but only one route pays the platform. The restaurant can't signal savings, they can only offer pickup. You can save some fees by walking, but the app's convenience has trained you not to. There's also a quiet time tax. Waiting for the courier, you watch the map circle your block twice. The app shows arriving soon for 8 minutes. When the dot pulls up, the driver calls. "I'm outside, can you meet me?" They're managing parking tickets and stacked orders. You run down 4 flights. The food is warmish. You paid to save time and effort. You still spent both. On the platform side, retail media is creeping into food. Sponsored listings boost certain restaurants. Some appear at the top because they paid, not because they're closest or best rated. The ad spend is another line in a tight margin business. To pay for it, menu prices inch up or portions thin. 2 months later, your favorite sandwich feels skimpier. The owner didn't get stingy. They moved dollars from the turkey tray to the ad auction because that's where orders now start. Finally, the regulatory landscape isn't static. Some cities cap delivery commissions or require fee disclosure. Platforms respond with new fee names, higher consumer-facing charges, or reduced service areas for small orders. The market adjusts. The bill finds a way to stay whole. So when the total on your sushi night hits $42 for what felt like a $28 dinner, that's the app tax in motion. Higher in-app menu prices cover commissions. Service, regulatory, and small order fees pad the platform's revenue mix and compliance costs. Tips are variable and carry their own psychology. Subscriptions smooth perception while upping frequency. You're paying for software that learned your habits, logistics that bundle your order with someone else's, and a marketplace that positions itself as the only door worth opening. And behind that door sits the same gravity we've seen all along. The finance that owns the building, the brand, or the platform, and expects every layer to deliver up the chain. Finance as the invisible landlord. Follow the money one layer higher, and you stop seeing trucks and start seeing term sheets. Finance doesn't stock shelves. It owns the shelves, the routes to them, and sometimes the brand on them. That ownership shows up as rent escalators, debt covenants, and exit timelines that whisper one instruction down the chain: raise cash faster. Private equity roll-ups run a common play. By a fragmented sector, say, veterinary clinics, car washes, or regional distributors. Add debt to the acquired companies, standardize operations, raise fees, cut service where customers have little choice, and promise investors a clean exit at a higher multiple. In grocery-adjacent spaces, it looks like consolidating cold storage warehouses or last-mile distributors. The debt sits on the operating companies, not the fund. Those operators need higher EBITDA to meet covenants. Fees inch up, surcharges appear, value-added services become mandatory, and that pressure migrates to the brands and finally, to your receipt. You can feel it in service. A warehouse under new ownership trims headcount and tightens appointment windows to look efficient on paper. Miss your 30-minute slot? Reschedule and pay. Inventory counts are optimized with new software. Cycle accuracy dips for a quarter. Shrink rises. The warehouse adds a reconciliation fee. The operator reports margin expansion through pricing discipline. Your yogurt cup doesn't list pricing discipline, but it carries it. Real estate is finance's oldest lever. Every store sits on a lease with escalators. Every warehouse, too. Many chains sold their real estate years ago and now lease back, freeing cash for buybacks or acquisitions while taking on long-term rent obligations that rise annually. Those escalators don't pause when foot traffic dips. The rent gets paid by selling more or charging more. If a landlord raises common area maintenance fees or passes along insurance spikes, the store cuts labor hours or nudges prices. The corner of the city you love costs more to occupy this year than last, so the latte inches up or the pastry shrinks. It goes deeper than stores. Some manufacturers sell their plants and lease them back to unlock value. The press release cites flexibility. The P&L then carries a rent line that grows, and the board expects earnings to rise anyway. Capacity investments, like replacing a failing oven or adding a new line, compete with debt service and buybacks. When choice time comes, investment gets deferred. Deferred maintenance is a cost you meet later as quality variability and stockouts that push you to pricier substitutes. Debt changes how decisions feel. With leverage, timing matters more than lifetime value. A company facing a covenant test will take price quickly, trim pack sizes, and reduce promo depth to hit the quarter. The plan to invest in efficiency that could lower cost over 2 years gets shelved. The brand tells you supply chain pressures made it necessary. The lender's spreadsheet already said it was necessary. Buybacks are the quiet alternative use of cash. In boom cycles, companies spend billions repurchasing shares to lift earnings per share. That's legal, common, and often rewarded by markets. But every dollar that goes to buybacks isn't building redundant capacity or paying down debt. When a shock hits, pandemic, war, weather, the system has less slack. Slower recovery gives cover for higher prices to stick. Relief arrives later because the cushion wasn't built. Vendor financing looks helpful until it doesn't. Big buyers push longer net terms, paying suppliers in 60, 90, even 120 days. Small suppliers become banks, carrying accounts receivable financed on credit lines at rising interest rates. If they can't carry it, they sell invoices to factors at a discount. The discount becomes a permanent haircut to margin. To survive, they lift list prices or take the quiet route. Less fill, cheaper inputs, a formula tweak, to keep the shelf price nominally steady. Your pantry absorbs a lender's yield. There's also reverse factoring, where a retailer partners with a bank to pay suppliers early, for a fee taken from the supplier. The retailer keeps longer terms on their books. The supplier pays to get cash sooner. The optics are win-win. The cost is baked into the jar. Indexation automates increases. Contracts across freight, packaging, and services tie rates to CPI, PPI, or fuel indices. When inflation spikes, clauses kick in. When inflation cools, ratchets don't unwind cleanly. Vendors point to wage resets and new baselines. Price floors established under stress hold. You don't see the clause, you see a stability fee that never leaves. Finance also owns the platforms that set the rules. A delivery app burns cash for years to win a market. Then, under pressure to show profits, it raises consumer fees, tweaks driver pay, and increases take rates from restaurants. Public markets reward the turn to profitability. The app becomes a rent collector over demand it aggregated with investor money. Your burger now pays tribute to the same capital that once subsidized it. Here's a micro-story. A regional cold chain operator gets acquired by a fund. Within a quarter, invoices include a network optimization fee and energy stabilization surcharge. The operator invests in LED lights and new compressors, real improvements, but keeps the surcharge after energy prices fall to offset capital investments. A dairy brand grits its teeth and pays. Months later, the fund sells the operator at a higher multiple, showcasing improved EBITDA per pallet. The buyer inherits the surcharges as standard. Your ice cream tub looks the same, costs more, and melts faster on the walk home because the store cut case temperatures to save on its own energy bill. Finance shapes labor too. Private equity-backed roll-ups often centralize scheduling to optimize utilization. Stores run leaner shifts, increasing wait times, reducing service, and pushing you towards self-checkout or apps. The labor savings flow to debt service. The time cost flows to you. When complaints rise, a technology fee appears somewhere else to fund kiosks. The thread through all of this is extraction with plausible deniability. No one-line item screams Wall Street fee. Instead, incentives cascade. Debt wants cash now, leases want a ratchet, investors want predictability. Operators respond with tools we've already met. Smaller packs, new fees, lighter service. The hidden tax isn't labeled. It's embedded in the financial architecture behind seemingly ordinary businesses. And finance doesn't just collect, it shapes competition. Roll-ups reduce the number of bidders for shelf space, trucking lanes, or warehouse slots. Fewer bidders means less pressure to pass savings through. Funds talk about pricing power in earnings calls. That phrase becomes your grocery bill. If a player with pricing power also controls real estate or a key service, everyone around them calibrates to that gravity. Even the companies trying to do right swim in the same current. So when you ask why a sandwich costs more and feels skimpier, Part of the answer is a lender you'll never meet, a lease you'll never read, and a buyback you'll never vote on. The bill for those choices arrives as higher fees with friendly names, modest pack changes, and slower relief when inputs fall. The next section looks at how rules were supposed to keep this in check, and how loopholes and light enforcement let the hidden tax scale. Section 8. The rules of the game, regulation, loopholes, and non-enforcement. Rules were supposed to stop the quiet taxes from spreading. For decades, antitrust enforcers focused on market structure. Fewer competitors meant trouble. Then the lens narrowed to short-term price effects. If a merger didn't immediately raise prices or reduce output, it often sailed through. But the hidden tax doesn't shout on day one. It creeps through fees, pack sizes, and bargaining leverage that don't show up in a simple price chart. By the time shoppers feel it, the paperwork is signed and the playbook is already running. Merger waves leaned on a single word: efficiency. Companies promised supply chain synergies, lower overhead, and better deals for consumers. In practice, efficiencies often meant bargaining power over suppliers, workers, and distribution. Local markets lost redundant options. A warehouse consolidation reduced 2 bidders to 1. A grocery tie-up kept prices steady on banners' headliners, but pulled allowances upstream, making room for standard surcharges. Regulators looked for price spikes at the register. The real action was in the contracts you never read. Even when regulators win a condition, the carve-outs can miss how power works. A chain sells a few stores to a smaller competitor to preserve local competition. The buyer inherits higher wholesale costs, worse delivery windows, and weaker retail media access. 6 quarters later, the buyer exits or sells back. On paper, divestitures protected choice. In real life, the opponent was playing uphill on every hidden fee. Labels were meant to keep shoppers informed. Instead, rules leave space for confusion that looks harmless until it isn't. Pack size changes don't require front panel flags beyond net weight in fine print. New look can arrive with less product and no side-by-side disclosure. Serving sizes follow averages that can be adjusted when category consumption changes, allowing calories per serving to look steady as serving counts shrink. Family size has no legal standard, it's marketing language. The bottle shape can slim while the cap gets taller, and the required net content stays legible but forgettable. Unit pricing rules help, but they're fragmented. Some states require per ounce labels. Others allow per pound or per count that varies by product. A 12-pack of double-size rolls versus 15 mega rolls becomes a math test. Fonts are small, placements drift, and enforcement focuses on accuracy, not clarity. If the tag is correct but confusing, it passes. Clarity would require standardization, which would require rulemaking that meets industry resistance, citing costs, and consumer confusion from changing displays. An irony that's hard to miss. Junk fees got attention lately, and for good reason. Hotels, airlines, ticketing platforms, and delivery apps learned to split prices into a cheerful headline and a pile of add-ons. Regulators propose disclosure rules and fair display requirements. Companies respond with creative renaming. A service fee becomes an operations support charge. A regulatory fee appears even when the government didn't mandate anything. The platform argues it funds compliance with worker benefits or privacy rules. When a city caps delivery commissions, platforms raise consumer-facing fees and tweak contracts to forbid lower in-store prices. The fee didn't die, it changed clothes. Enforcement budgets matter. You can pass rules that require clear total price display. But if the agency can't audit thousands of sites and apps, compliance becomes a suggestion. Big firms field teams of lawyers and UX designers to test the edges. A click to see full price button sits just past the threshold where users give up. Technically compliant, functionally confusing. The regulator can bring a case, but each case takes time and signals to everyone else where the new edge sits. The edge moves again. Data opacity shields the entire chain. Retailers guard transaction data as competitive advantage. Platforms guard fee structures as trade secrets. Payment networks publish interchange tables that vary by card type and merchant category, then adjust with rule updates. Manufacturers silo pack size histories and promotional calendars. Without standardized disclosures, total price, total fees, unit price per standardized measure. Shoppers can't compare apples to apples, and watchdogs can only reconstruct after the fact. By then, the temporary fee is habitual. There's also the problem of harm measurement. Antitrust's price effect focus struggles with quality erosion and time taxes. When a detergent cleans worse at the same sticker price, or when a checkout app takes 3 extra steps, how do you score that in court? You need long-run studies, expert testimony, and a judge willing to see friction as a form of price. Many cases never get that far. Meanwhile, companies learn which downgrades are too subtle to trigger outrage. Labeling has another blind spot, claims that soothe without informing. No added hormones on chicken is permitted, but already required by law. It reassures while implying a difference where none exists. Supports immunity, dances on structure/function claim rules that avoid drug-level proof. These claims add permission to pay without necessarily adding value. Regulators can push back on egregious examples, but the day-to-day is a whack-a-mole of small misdirections inside the lines. Pricing algorithms complicate everything. Personalized offers aren't illegal. But when a platform segments shoppers by elasticity, raising prices on loyal, time-poor users and discounting to flight risks, the average price can look flat while certain households pay more. Proving discriminatory impact is difficult without access to the model and the data. Firms can claim experimentation for UX improvement. Regulators can ask for transparency and fairness audits, but absent statutory authority, access is voluntary or contested. Merger review timelines don't match digital speed. While agencies request information, firms launch partnerships, private label expansions, and retail media products that entrench advantage. The remedies arrive after behavior calcifies. A policy that once focused on preventing single-firm dominance now faces ecosystems where retail, ads, logistics, and payments blend. Power hides in interoperability fees, data sharing agreements, and preferred placement, none of which say monopoly at the top. Even well-meaning regulation can backfire. Deposit laws reduce litter and improve recycling, but when processors consolidate, redemption fees rise and handling allowances lag, pushing small retailers to opt out. Environmental packaging rules push lighter materials, which can tear more, increasing damages and waste upstream. Costs shift in ways that generate new fees named for sustainability. The goals are worthy, the implementation gets priced. Local enforcement sometimes has more teeth. City attorneys sue over drip pricing or fake was prices. Settlements change a practice for a while, then new phrasing appears. State weights and measures teams audit scales and price accuracy. They can find egregious mismatches, but a correctly labeled 14.5-ounce bag that used to be 16 ounces isn't illegal. It's strategy. So what would help? Standardized total price disclosure that includes mandatory fees before checkout would close many loopholes. Clear, consistent unit standards across categories would reduce label games. Tight timelines for passing through cost decreases, not just increases, would blunt the rocket and feather pattern. Stronger merger scrutiny that weighs bargaining power over suppliers and workers, not just consumer prices, would reflect the real harms. And enforcement budgets sized to the problem would signal that rules aren't suggestions. What stands in the way is predictable, lobbying, legal complexity, and the comfort of ambiguity for incumbents. The hidden tax thrives in gray areas, where an add-on is arguably a service, where a smaller pack is arguably innovation, where a fee is arguably necessary. Clarity threatens margins built on ambiguity. Without it, you keep paying in nickels and minutes. And that brings us back to your receipt. If the rules can't or won't force clarity, the only clarity you get is the paper in your hand, or the PDF in your email. That's where the hidden tax leaves footprints. Weird line items, odd discounts that train you, and pack sizes that don't match your memory. In the next section, we'll dissect that receipt and finally cash the assorted promo ADJ minus $1.00 we planted at the start. The receipt autopsy, where the hidden tax lives. Let's pull the receipt from that $86.14 trip and lay it flat. On paper, it's just lines and numbers. In reality, it's a map of every nudge we've walked through. First, groceries. The cereal rings at $4.99. Net weight reads smaller on the box you took home, but the register doesn't care about ounces, only UPCs. The unit price on the shelf said 39 cents per ounce last year. Today, it's effectively 45 cents because the box shed grams. Your receipt doesn't show shrinkflation. It shows loyalty points you'll redeem next month for 50 cents off something else. Milk, normal. Bread, the slices are narrower, so the family burns through it faster. You won't see that in ink. You'll see buy 2 save $1, which nudged you to grab an extra loaf you wouldn't have otherwise. The energy drinks show up as mix and match 3/$6. That's the training we flagged. Spend to save, and spend more to save more. Then a small surprise, bag fee 10 cents x4. Ordinary, except you used to get free paper. Now bags are a line item with a civic sheen. The store's pickup service fee doesn't appear because you checked out in person. If you'd used the app, it might have slid in under order handling. Scroll further. Regulatory operations fee $1.25. The cashier couldn't explain it. It's often a store catch-all for compliance costs. Wages, sick leave mandates, recycling programs. Some are legitimate pass-throughs, some are margin patches. The receipt rarely clarifies. That ambiguity is the point. Now a rideshare receipt from the same week. Base fare, $12. Distance and time, $3.48. Marketplace fee, $2.25. Driver benefits fee, $1.15. Taxes, $1.06. You tipped $3. The app told you the ride would be $14 to $17. You paid $21.94. Surge didn't show, demand did. The marketplace fee isn't a government tax. It's a platform take. It sits next to real taxes, so your brain files it under inevitable. Delivery the next night tells the same story. Pad Thai, $13.50 on the app, $12 in-store. Delivery fee, $2.99. Service fee, $2.40. Regulatory fee, $1.05. Small order fee because you didn't add drinks, $2. Subtotal before tip is already past what you'd pay at the table. You tip $4 because you're decent and because the interface makes 18% the default. Final, $26.94 for a $13.50 meal. You got hot food to your door. You also paid the rent for the marketplace that sits between you and the kitchen. Streaming, it used to be one price. Now your monthly shows 3 lines. Base plan $9.99. 4K add-on $4.99. Ad-free $2.99. There's a regional tax of $1.07. The base plan looks unchanged from 2 years ago. The features that once came bundled migrated to paid tiers. Price didn't explode, value unbundled. You could drop to ad-supported, but then your time gets taxed by pre-roll and mid-roll that sell you things you'll pay more for later. Back to groceries for line item versus embedded. Some fees are explicit: bag charges, bottle deposits, environmental fees on electronics. Others are baked into prices: card interchange, retail media, slotting, trade spend, freight surcharges that never unwound. If a store accepts only cards, interchange lives inside the sticker. If it gives cash discounts, credit users see an extra line. Most just raise prices enough to cover the blend. Your receipt won't say Visa toll. It will say subtotal. Unit price math is where the hidden tax hides cleanly. The detergent that claimed 30 loads last year now claims 25 powerful cleans. Same shelf price, smaller cap, wider spout. Your per wash cost is up 15 to 20%, even if the price looks stable. Peanut butter's jar curves inward. Net weight drops from 16 to 14 ounces. Shelf still says $3.99. Per ounce jumped from 25 cents to 28 cents. If you don't calculate, you don't feel it until the jar empties sooner and the next week's budget flexes. Then there's time as currency. You waited 2 minutes at self-checkout for an associate to clear an unexpected item in the bagging area. You scanned a loyalty app that lagged, then hunted the digital coupon you saw yesterday. It expired overnight. You return a leaking yogurt the next day. Customer service line costs 8 minutes. A rideshare driver cancels after 5 minutes because your street is tricky. You reorder. The second driver takes longer. Each friction costs minutes you won't bill anyone for. The system credits you a token discount later, the illusion of fairness paid in future spend. Let's cache the detail we planted at the start. Assorted promo ADJ minus $1.00. Looks like a win. In reality, that line is the residue of manufacturer trade spend and retail media. The brand paid the retailer to feature the product, possibly also to boost it in the app's search results. The retailer passed a sliver of that budget to you as a discount, recorded as a negative line to make it feel like found money. The rest funded the ad slot, the end cap, the data program, and the retailer's margin. That $1 off trains you to anchor on a higher regular price and to believe the store is fighting for you. Next month, the promotion shifts, your brand loyalty remains, and the base price, quietly higher than it needed to be, sticks. The $1 wasn't free. It was an advance on future you. Now stitch the receipts together. Grocery subtotal looks okay until the end of receipt charges. Rideshare quotes look okay until the platform fees load. Delivery menus look okay until the small order fee tips them over. Streaming base looks okay until the add-ons stack. None of these alone crushes a budget. Together, they redefine what the same life costs. That's the hidden tax. Not a law, not a single line, but a pattern that harvests small frictions and informational gaps. A microcheck, what you didn't see. You didn't see the warehouse, energy stabilization surcharge, the yogurt brand paid, the cold chain operators, network optimization fee, or the payment interchange. You didn't see the distributor's promotional allowance or the category captain's planogram rent. You met them as a lighter tub and a $1 coupon. The costs traveled invisibly and shook out at your kitchen table. So what do you actually control? You can read unit prices ruthlessly and ignore sale tags that hide per ounce hikes. You can default to pickup to dodge stacked delivery fees. You can call the restaurant to order direct. You can batch errands to avoid surge in reorders. You can audit subscriptions and kill add-ons you never use. But none of that fixes the incentive to hide the ball. Your receipt is a mirror. It reflects 1,000 upstream choices translated into 3 kinds of charges: explicit line items, embedded premiums, and time taxes. If you start seeing which is which, you stop arguing with the cashier and start choosing routes that keep more in your pocket. In the next section, we'll turn those choices into tactics that reduce your exposure without opting out of life. Countermoves, reducing your exposure without opting out of life. You don't need to move off-grid to stop bleeding. Start with the one-lever stores hope you ignore: unit price. Treat every shelf like a math quiz and only compare per ounce, per pound, or per count across identical units. If a tag uses a different unit, convert it on your phone in 10 seconds. Build a tiny habit. Snap photos of staple labels every few months. When the family size quietly loses 2 ounces, you'll see it and switch. Your memory is soft, your camera isn't. Track pack sizes over time for the 5 to 10 items you buy weekly. Keep a simple note: brand, size, unit price, date. When a new look appears, check the net weight before it hits the cart. If it's smaller and the per ounce is worse, default to an alternative, store brand, different size ladder, or a comparable product in the same category that didn't shrink this quarter. You're not boycotting, you're removing the reward for quiet changes. Default to pickup instead of delivery when the app stacks fees. Most chains waive or minimize pickup charges above a threshold and keep in-store prices. That cuts service, regulatory, and small order fees out of the equation and saves the tip for when it matters. Batch errands to hit 1 or 2 pickup windows a week. It's the same groceries without the app tax, and your order waits in a bin instead of a warm trunk. Avoid surge windows on rides and deliveries by shifting routine trips 10 to 20 minutes when possible. If you're leaving work, check the heat map. If it's bright red, take a walk, grab water, and wait for the color to cool. The difference between a $14 ride and a $22 ride often lives in a quarter hour. For planned outings, set alerts in the app that notify when prices dip, then move. You're not gaming, you're refusing to fund peak time experiments. Substitute categories where quality is stable. Many generics match national brands in basics: oats, flour, sugar, canned tomatoes, painkillers. Try a split strategy. Buy generics for commodities and reserve brands for items where you really taste the difference. Explore co-ops and community-supported agriculture for produce. A CSA box can look pricier up front, but lowers per unit for fresh staples and locks in quality. It also sidesteps some distributor fees that hit mainstream produce. Decouple from the app tax by ordering direct. Call the restaurant or use their own site if they've got one. Ask which method they prefer and whether the in-store price differs. If you're nearby, pickup keeps the kitchen's margin and cuts fees that don't make your food taste better. Some shops offer their own delivery within a radius. The fee often covers a real driver without a platform's cut, and the menu prices match dine-in. At checkout, choose merchant-preferred payment. Interchange fees are invisible, but many local merchants quietly prefer debit over premium credit cards. If they offer a cash discount or lower price for debit, take it. You still get speed, they keep more of the sale, and you reduce the meta tax embedded in everyone's price tag. When traveling, ask before paying. Some small operators have razor-thin margins. Build redundancy so you're not trapped by timing. Price alerts on staples catch actual sales instead of the fake with /now anchors. Pantry cycles, keeping 2 to 4 weeks of non-perishables you use anyway. Let you wait out bad prices and weird shortages. Rotate stock, don't hoard. If cooking basics slide in quality, have a backup brand you've tested so you're not stuck buying a new formula at a premium out of panic. Audit subscriptions quarterly. Streaming tiers drift, delivery passes creep, grocery add-ons multiply. Make a calendar event titled Kill 2 Subs. Open your card statement, find recurring charges, and cancel at least 2. If you miss a service, you'll know in a week. If you don't, that's cash back. Apply the same rule to app memberships that promise free delivery while quietly leaving service fees intact. Reframe deals. Ignore 10 for $10 unless the unit math beats your normal brand. Skip BOGOs that push you to buy perishables you'll toss. If a promo requires a loyalty app clip, ask if the higher base price is worth the time. Your rule of thumb: if it takes more than 30 seconds to activate, pass. Your minutes are part of the tax. Spend them carefully. Change how you compare. Build a tiny spreadsheet or use notes with a dozen staples, 2 to 3 acceptable brands each, and target unit prices. When a shelf tag undercuts your target, you buy. When it doesn't, you pass or downshift. This turns shopping into a checklist, not a negotiation. It's faster in practice because you stop scanning every tag for fake wins. Shift where you buy some items. Drugstores often run higher shelf prices on basics. Warehouse clubs often run lower per unit, but trap you with bulk. Use clubs for items with slow, predictable use: rice, beans, toilet paper, where storage isn't a burden. Skip bulk. On things with stealth recipe changes that increase use per serving, like detergent or snacks you'll simply eat more of because it's open. Control portion creep by controlling tools. If a detergent cap got wider, use a measuring cup and ignore the cap's line. If a cereal box shrank, pour into the same bowl you always used and notice if the bag empties sooner. Put a post-it on the shelf. X should last 14 days. If it starts lasting 11, the product changed or your use did. Either way, you've got a prompt to switch. Tame rideshare drift with defaults. Save a nearby transit stop in your map and make it muscle memory to check it first. If late-night rides are unavoidable, share with a friend and split the fare in-app to blunt fees. For regular commutes, test alternative routes or times for a week and log actual costs. The cheapest pattern often isn't the one you fell into. Keep receipts, paper or digital, and spot audit once a month. Look for unknown fees, new line items, and items that rank higher than shelf. Stores often honor price mismatches. Platforms sometimes refund unclear fees if you point to policy. You won't win every time, but you'll learn which merchants respect your attention. Spend where you're treated like a customer, not a target. Help your future self by pre-committing. If you're tempted by late-night delivery, leave a frozen meal you actually like in the freezer. If surge pricing catches you after work, store a transit card with balance in your bag. If subscription creep is your weakness, use a virtual card for trials and auto-expire it. You're not fighting willpower, you're redesigning the path. Finally, talk to the people who serve you. Ask restaurants which channel helps them. Ask store managers when markdowns happen. Ask farmers at markets about peak deals in seconds. The human route often beats the algorithm because it aligns your savings with their margin. None of this fixes the upstream incentives. It does lower your exposure today. You're treating fees like weather. You can't stop the storm, but you can choose a better route and pack a jacket. Next, we'll look at how to change the forecast, not just your umbrella. Leverage, collective power that actually moves prices. Personal tactics help you dodge rain. Collective leverage changes the weather. Start with transparency. When total price disclosure is mandatory up front, before checkout, before add-ons, drip pricing loses oxygen. You don't need a PhD in fees. You need a single number that includes required charges. Cities that forced restaurants and platforms to show in-app menu markups and all mandatory fees saw quieter stacks and clearer choices. Standardized unit pricing does the same on shelves. One measure per category, readable fonts, consistent placement. When the math is visible, the games get harder. Naming matters. Service fee, operations fee, regulatory recovery charge, they blur. Standardized names with definitions reduce wiggle room. If a fee funds delivery logistics, call it delivery operations. If it's platform margin, call it platform fee. You still might pay it, but you won't mistake it for a tax. Caps help when markets tip. Commission caps for delivery. Interchange alternatives for small merchants. Explicit limits on mystery hotel and ticket fees. Caps aren't perfect. They push pressure elsewhere. Pair them with disclosure so pressure can't hide. Local competition isn't nostalgia, it's price pressure. Zoning and permitting can reserve space for independence in new developments, reduce minimum parking that inflates costs, and speed approvals for small format grocers. Shelf access rules, simple versions of fair dealing, can require a baseline of facings for qualifying local products or ban pay-to-stay beyond a threshold, lowering the capital wall that keeps new brands off your radar. You aren't asking chains to be charities. You're asking them to compete on more than gate fees. Payment rails are a quiet choke. Opening lanes to lower-cost networks, enabling real-time bank-to-merchant payments with consumer-grade protections, and allowing merchants to steer tender cleanly. Clear discounts for debit, cash, or new rails puts pressure on interchange. Your role is simple. Use the cheaper rail when a merchant passes the savings. Policy's role is harder. Foster alternatives with fraud tools and dispute rights so adoption isn't a leap of faith. Retail media needs guardrails. Sponsored search can exist without burying organic relevance. Require clear sponsored tags, limit how many paid results can sit above organic, and prohibit pay-to-win on branded keyword defense that blocks rivals entirely. Those rules keep ad budgets from swallowing trade spend that used to fund real discounts. Worker power cuts a different tax, the churn tax. Stable schedules, fair wages, and predictable hours reduce turnover that forces stores to run lean and push self-checkout friction onto you. When teams stick, error rates fall, restocking improves, and compliance deductions upstream ease. Cities with fair workweek laws saw fewer last-minute shifts and better staffing. You felt it as shorter lines and fewer system-down moments that steal your time. Data rights can pull pricing back into daylight. Give shoppers portable receipts, standard formats with unit sizes, coupons applied, and fees, so third-party tools can audit spend across retailers. Privacy rules should block discriminatory pricing on protected attributes while allowing you to opt out of personalized prices that quietly raise your bill. If a store wants your data, make them earn it with real value. Transparent discounts, not scavenger hunts. Co-ops and buyer groups convert individual shoppers into a counterweight. Food co-ops negotiate directly with producers, keep margins transparent, and return surplus to members or lower future prices. Neighborhood buyer clubs pool orders for bulk staples, splitting cases to access distributor pricing without retail gate fees. These aren't relics, they're functional responses to concentrated bargaining power. The more people participate, the sharper the counterweight. Small business alliances matter too. Independent restaurants can join purchasing co-ops, share ghost kitchen capacity without platform gatekeepers, and route orders through zero-commission marketplaces subsidized by cities or bids. When a dozen restaurants point customers to one shared direct order portal, discovery becomes collective and fees shrink. Policy isn't the only lever. Social norms move prices. When restaurants clearly state, "Order direct helps us keep prices fair," enough customers follow to give owners bargaining room with platforms. When shoppers favor stores that display total price up front or adopt strict unit standards, competitors copy the practice or risk losing traffic. Collective attention is currency. Spend it on clarity, and the market will supply more of it. A civic microhabit helps: report junk fees. City attorneys, AGs, and weights and measures teams rely on complaints to spot patterns. Screenshots of pre-checkout totals that jump, shelf tags mismatched to scans, or regulatory fees with no legal basis. Those tips become cases. One inquiry can trigger a chain-wide pricing integrity sweep that cleans more than one aisle. Last, demand passed through both ways. Many contracts and local ordinances contemplate fuel surcharges going up. Few enforce rollbacks when fuel falls. Ask your city or state to require symmetrical pass-through in regulated sectors. Waste hauling, towing, utilities, and require clear sunset clauses for surcharges. Symmetry won't fix groceries overnight, but it sets a precedent. Temporary means temporary. None of this is abstract. You can vote for fee transparency ordinances, support co-ops, choose merchants that steer to lower-cost payments, tip workers who stabilize your experience, and call out platforms that bury price. When enough people do, the incentives shift. And when incentives shift, the cheap that costs you later starts to look less inevitable. Which brings us to the bill we pay for fake bargains. The cost of cheap, what we pay without seeing it. Cheap feels like a win at the register. The bill comes due later. Start with quality decay. When a pan warps after a year, when a zipper fails on month 13, when earbuds lose a channel just past warranty, you pay a replacement tax that isn't labeled. The first price looks low because the product met a spec engineered to clear return windows, not to last. Multiply that by appliances built with thinner bearings, shoes with glued midsoles instead of stitched, and furniture with particle board that sags under normal use. The lifetime cost outpaces the expensive alternative you skipped, but the pain is spread across years, so it hides. Food has its version. Skimpflation in ingredients means a cereal that keeps you full for 2 hours instead of 4, a yogurt that tips towards starches, a snack that encourages larger servings to hit the same satisfaction. You eat more to fill the same gap, and your grocery budget climbs without an obvious price hike. At the same time, ultra-processed shortcuts save minutes today. Ready sauces, shelf-stable meals, sweetened drinks that mimic fruit, but push health costs forward. Higher sodium nudges blood pressure. Added sugars nudge insulin resistance. Cheap calories look efficient in a busy week. A decade later, you're paying in copays and time in waiting rooms. There's a second-order cost, attention. When everything requires extra vigilance, checking unit prices, decoding fee names, auditing subscriptions, you spend cognitive bandwidth that could be used on work, family, or rest. The hidden tax reaches into evenings as you sort emails for free months, turning to charges, track trials, and chase refunds for mystery line items. The industry bets on fatigue. If you watch every penny, you burn hours. If you don't, pennies turn into dollars. Either way, you pay. Community carries the bill, too. When big chains lean on fee structures small shops can't match, local stores close. The loss looks like a dark storefront. The consequences ripple. Longer travel for basics, fewer eyes on the street, fewer sponsorships for youth teams and neighborhood events, and one fewer employer where teens and seniors picked up flexible hours. With fewer independent options, the remaining players lean harder on loyalty ecosystems and retail media, and the price of choice rises. The search for a hardware screw turns into a 20-minute drive and a $19 minimum for free pickup. Your neighborhood gets worse at daily life. The labor side hides a tax and churn. Lean staffing makes lines longer, training thinner, and errors more common. A pharmacy with rotating staff misses an interaction and calls you back to re-verify a refill. A grocery with 2 cashiers open on a Sunday pushes you to self-checkout with a line that breaks twice for ID checks. Those minutes are real. They add up to an afternoon every month spent compensating for a system tuned for lowest visible cost. Innovation takes a hit when incumbents toll road categories. If a giant can copy a brand and undercut it using private label leverage, the next founder thinks twice about investing years and savings into a product that ends up as a data point feeding someone else's planogram. The result isn't just fewer flavors of granola. It's slower progress on genuinely better packaging, healthier formulations, or fairer supply chains that need early adopters at decent margins to fund learning. When the only way through is to sell to the giant, the future gets shaped by spreadsheets that discount long payoffs. There's also the weird cost of volatility. A system optimized for low, today with thin buffers breaks loud tomorrow. When a port clogs or a plant fails, stockouts arrive. You drive to 3 stores for baby formula or a specific medication. You substitute and waste food you don't actually like. You overbuy when you finally find it, tying up cash. The cheap model didn't pay for resilience. You're paying with miles, time, and stress. Even sustainability can hide a boomerang. Lighter plastics and thinner films reduce freight emissions and price, but when the pouch tears in your pantry or the cap leaks in your bag, your personal waste rises. Appliances built with sealed components are efficient and slim, but non-reparable. You toss the whole unit for a bad pump. E-waste climbs. The advertised savings at scale become material at landfill scale, and you're stuck replacing rather than repairing. Digital cheap has a cost in attention markets. Ad-supported tiers promise the same shows for free time instead of money. Except the ads aren't passive. They promote products with their own hidden taxes. You sit through a pre-roll on limited-time meal kits that lead with a low intro price and climb with service fees and shipping. You get retargeted on social, click once, and start seeing variants everywhere. The next month, your card statement shows 3 small recurring charges you barely remember authorizing. Free wasn't free. Sometimes the bill is cultural. When a platform trains you to expect everything faster and cheaper, patience for real craft shrinks. A bakery that ferments dough properly can't move at ghost kitchen speed. A tailor who repairs well costs what a new jacket from a fast fashion site costs on sale. The market punishes the patient. Over time, neighborhoods lose skilled services that kept goods in use longer. The repair economy withers, and replacement becomes the default, which feeds the replacement tax. There's a micro-story about a couch. A couple buys a sofa online for $799. It arrives compressed, light, and modern. After a year, the cushions crater. The frame creaks when guests sit. They price a reupholster, $600 labor plus fabric, more than the couch. They toss it and buy another cheap one. 10 years and 3 couches later, they've spent $2,400 and hauled hundreds of pounds to a landfill. The expensive hardwood frame couch at $1,500 with a $300 restuff 5 years in would have been cheaper and better for the planet. The first purchase felt smart. The total life cost says otherwise. Now the paradox. Cheap saves minutes right now. You tap the app, pay the pass, accept the smaller pack, and move on with your day. That flexibility is real. You get dinner, a ride, or a show without friction, until the friction reappears in your budget, your health, your neighborhood, and your future choices. Opting out entirely isn't possible, but seeing the trade changes how you spend. You start spotting where cheap steals from tomorrow, and where paying a little more now buys you time, durability, and dignity later. Back to the aisle. You can still choose. Not every premium is worth it. Not every bargain is a trap. The point is to recognize the hidden tax and decide when to pay it and when to walk, because the system counts on you not. Noticing and attention is the one currency you control more than they do. The hidden tax isn't a line on a bill. It's the price of captured choices spread across your time, quality, and future. If this pulled back the curtain, subscribe for more no-fluff breakdowns that protect your wallet and your attention. Watch the next episode to see how housing's fees mirror this playbook, and what to do about them before your lease renews. Tap through now. The story continues where this receipt ends.